Republican Elise Stefanik is the North Country's longest-serving representative in Congress since John McHugh retired in 2009. She's now seeking her sixth term from a place of power McHugh didn't reach. But even as her national star continues to rise, her supporters say she's still here on the ground in the North Country, doing the little things. We have a profile with early voting starting Saturday on today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Claxton Hepburn Medical Center, dedicated to providing patient care and regional services to the people of St. Lawrence County. claxtonhepburn.org.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein, straight to Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. Unlike recent campaign cycles, the North Country's race for Congress is barely on the political radar this year. That's because Stefanik holds massive advantages in campaign cash and name recognition over Democratic challenger Paula Collins. Stefanik is one of the most powerful Republicans in Washington. And despite her shift to focus on national politics, Stefanik supporters say she's remained connected to the North Country's issues. Emily Russell has this profile.
On a Sunday afternoon in early October, more than 50 people packed into an axe-throwing shop in the Adirondacks. The crowd wasn't really there to throw axes. Their main goal was to raise money for Hamilton County Republicans and to meet a special guest.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to serve you. It was 10 years ago when Hamilton County endorsed me.
North Country Congresswoman Elise Stefanik stood in front of the crowd and thanked them for their support. She highlighted local leaders, took photos with the caterers, and chatted with folks in the crowd, including Jennifer Hoffman, who had never met Stefanik before.
My first impression, she is extremely down to earth, very friendly, small in stature, huge in personality.
Hoffman and her husband own Axes and Irons, the business in Indian Lake that hosted the Republican fundraiser. She also recorded the audio of Stefanik speaking. Local media wasn't invited to the event, and Stefanik's office didn't publicize it. In her last few terms in office, Stefanik has been relying more on these private events and personal relationships rather than hosting big public rallies and press conferences. Still, Stefanik has remained overwhelmingly popular in the North Country. She's been endorsed by dozens of the region's top Republican leaders and some Democrats, like Potsdam Town Supervisor Marty Miller.
When I reached out to Ms. Stefanik about one of my issues, I'm going to tell you, it just blew me away where she texted me right back and told me the next morning, I'll call you at this time. And I talked with her. I didn't talk with one of her representatives. I spoke with her.
Stefanik has represented the North Country since 2015 when she replaced Democrat Bill Owens. The district has long been seen as purple, supporting Bush for president, then Obama, and later Trump. So when Stefanik was first elected, she promised to put the people of the North Country over politics. Here she is speaking the night of her first victory in Glens Falls in 2014.
Every decision I make, every single vote I take, I will ask myself one simple question. Will this help the hardworking families of the North Country? And I will work with anyone, regardless of their party affiliation, to get it done.
During Stefanik's first 3 terms in Congress, she actually became more and more moderate. According to the Lugar Center's Bipartisan Index, Stefanik climbed up to the 13th most bipartisan member of Congress. But it was in that third term that Stefanik entered the national spotlight and began to align herself more and more with President Donald Trump. From defending him during his 2 impeachment trials to amplifying Trump's false claims about voter fraud in the 2020 election, Stefanik's shift to the right has gained her more political influence, more fundraising power, and more national popularity. Stefanik declined to be interviewed for this story. Ron Seib, a political science professor at Skidmore College in Saratoga Springs, says he sees Stefanik's political shift as part of a larger strategy.
She made a calculation, and I don't use that term in a judgmental way, but she made a calculation that if she was going to become, a power player in the Republican Party, she was going to have to make a tack to the right.
And that tack shows. Today, Stefanik is the 165th most bipartisan member of Congress. Regarding the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, she went from calling the day tragic to describing the rioters as hostages. In an interview with CNN earlier this year, Stefanik suggested she still would not have certified the results of the 2020 election, even though there's no evidence of widespread voter fraud.
Had you been vice president on January 6, 2021, what would you have done?
I stood up for the Constitution. I believe it was
what would you have done if you were vice president?
I would not have done what Mike Pence did. I don't think that was the right approach. I specifically...
According to records obtained by Politico, Stefanik met with Trump in the Oval Office 2 days before January 6th. Stefanik's Democratic opponent in this year's election, Paula Collins, is critical of her embrace of Trump and her shift to the right in recent years.
New York 21 elected a moderate conservative. She is very proud to call herself an ultra-MAGA, not just MAGA, but ultra-MAGA.
In a statement, Stefanik's senior advisor, Alex DeGrasse, said Collins will be, quote, crushed at the ballot box in November. Over the past decade, Stefanik has defeated every one of her Democratic challengers by a double-digit margin. She's also seen her profile rise even higher in this term. The latest issue that put Stefanik in the national spotlight was anti-Semitism on college campuses amid the war in Gaza.
I will ask you one more time. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
That was Stefanik questioning Harvard's President Claudine Gay during a congressional hearing last December.
It depends on the context.
It does not depend on the context. The answer is yes, and this is why you should resign. These are unacceptable answers across the board.
Gay did end up resigning from Harvard, as did the presidents of UPenn and Columbia. Stefanik celebrated those resignations, saying in a statement, quote, 3 down, so many to go. Stefanik's campaign has raised nearly $14 million this term, just behind what the current and former Republican chairs of the House have raised. About 88% of those donations have come from outside New York. Stefanik has also focused a real portion of her campaign outside the state.
It is great to be here in Charlottesville, Virginia at the Trump Winery.
This was at a Trump rally in Virginia in September. Stefanik also joined Trump's bus tour in North Carolina earlier this month. Meanwhile, voters in the North Country won't get to see Stefanik and her Democratic challenger Paula Collins debate this year. Stefanik never responded to the invite. It's the second election in a row without a debate in this district. Still, Republicans like Jennifer Hoffman from Indian Lake remain devoted to Stefanik, both in this election cycle and beyond.
I'm just so impressed with her. If she were running for president, I would vote for Elise Stefanik in a minute.
There are speculations about what's next for Stefanik. She had been in the running for Trump's VP before he chose J.D. Vance for that role. But if Trump is reelected in November, there's a chance her loyalty could be rewarded with a different role. Stefanik has said she'd be honored to serve in a future Trump administration in any capacity. Emily Russell, North Country Public Radio.
Early voting starts on Saturday, and of course, Election Day is on Tuesday, November 5th. We also have a profile of Stefanik's challenger, Democrat Paula Collins, on our website, ncpr.org. At NCPR, we aim to cover politics fairly, evenly, focusing on the facts we know and seeking out the truth when we don't. Doesn't matter the politician or the level of government, doesn't matter the party. It's what you expect of us. It's why you donate to public radio. Our fall fundraiser is close to an end, and we can't do this work without your donations. Please give generously right now at ncpr.org/give. Thanks so much. Music today by Christopher Watts of Canton. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.